そうですね。あのチャイルド家です。ですが、私とユリエンはお友達です。あ、そうだ。これ。
なんだ。
お土産です。ユリエンの手作りなんですよ。すごいでしょ。
All right, we have Doctor Elise episode number 9, and I'm going to start off by saying I absolutely loved this episode and what it did for Elise and for Julian. But part of the reality is I'm here to review anime episodes individually based on them individually and you know, in a broader sense, holistically. And I want to remain fair to all of those other anime that I've kind of said a very similar thing. When they don't just nail kind of proceeding or kind of moving the story that it kind of set up along. Why am I saying that? Is again, I think that this episode was really, really great to me personally. But if I had to look through it and kind of like, you know, nail it down, look through it through a deeper lens, it's from a critical standpoint. Last week we ended last week's episode with focusing on the doctor that Elise is working very closely with, and we kind of got his backstory. We got a lot of context to how he was raised, how he lost his parents, how he was, you know, raised by his maid and stuff. So it was a good contextual episode for a main character. Now, some may argue, including myself, that Julian herself is a main character as well, too, within this show, considering that she represents kind of the house that Elise's house is feuding with, and one of the few really important houses in the kingdom. And this episode kind of bridged the gap between both of them and showed us how do you, like, what's the right words to say it? Familial long-time feuds. Basically, like, you know how it is like, you know, you have two families that hate each other, and when they have children, it's like, oh, we're supposed to hate each other too. But it's like, well, we're our own people. Just because our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, etc., hated each other doesn't mean that we have to. And I think that's what's being represented perfectly here. Is you have two daughters of these households, and it's like, well, just because we're supposed to not like each other doesn't mean we have to not like each other. And the doctor this episode, the doctor that examined Elise, said it perfectly. He's like, it looks like Elise is going to bring more to this empire, more to this kingdom than just her medical knowledge. She's going to bring something more. When he saw Julian and Elise interacting and smiling and being, you know, friendly and cordial, and obviously there's a friendship there, there's a kinship there that's immediately evident to anybody kind of like feasting their eyes upon it. And I think that's really important for the story. But I will recognize that there may be some of you out there who have an appetite for what I call the juice, right? We want to see Elise and we want to see the prince, right? This is a shoujo, it is a romance anime. So it's like, well, we want to see more of the juice. We want to see more of that romance. We want to see the prince come in and rizz up our girl a little bit more, or vice versa of that. It's like we want to see a little bit of that romance and that intrigue of that specific plot line. We want to see more of it. And I will recognize, much like other shows, is Doctor Elise is only set up for 12 episodes, and this was already episode 9. So really, we only have 10, 11, and 12. So we have 3 episodes to kind of get the juice, get the good stuff in. And it's like, well, will we get to some of that good stuff? The reality is it's impossible. It's just like, even if they were to speed up, there's no way in 60 minutes of content that we could really get anything tangible or anything like. Best case scenario, we get like a confession or maybe from the prince to Elise that he, you know, he does actually want her to be empress for whatever reason. Maybe we get some hand holding. I mean, a kiss, but I wouldn't even hang my hat on a kiss. Like, I don't think we get anywhere near that. And then on top of getting the juice, right? We want the juice. We want that OJ. We want the juice. On top of that, we also want to see kind of what's going to happen between Elise and the king, and the deal that he made that he kind of broke and then kind of reforced her in. Like, what's the plan there for the future empress slash medical queen? You know, what's the go forward there? So I want to say that from a critical standpoint, I will understand that this episode, although cute and really good, did not move that specific plot line forward for either the romance, the juice that we want, or for the core story. Again, we have 3 episodes. We're going to see what they can do with that. But again, I want to say from a critical standpoint, I understand that this didn't move that needle forward. And if you were to say, I didn't enjoy this episode, or man, this was a waste of time, or this was a 6 or 7 out of 10, I completely understand those feelings because, again, removing my love for this show that I have, because I don't think it could do any wrong at this point, removing that and looking at it through from the lens of somebody who, like, this isn't their favorite thing, but they're watching because it's entertaining, enjoyable enough, and they could really like it. I can understand of those feelings. Now, taking 2 steps back, I do think this episode did really well. As I mentioned earlier, as last episode built up the contextualness and the context for one of the main characters of the show, the other doctor, I think they did that for Julie in this episode. It got to put her in a vulnerable state. We learned that she's been studying medical stuff. She's really inspired by Elise. We got to see Elise's and Julian's relationship prior to the big change that she had, and kind of the hatred that really was there. Childish hatred, but it was there. We got to see her brother's view, Julian's brother's view on Elise herself, which I think is a really good contextual thing. And we got to see the go forward for their relationship that is going to merge those 2 families. The Childs and the Clarences hate each other, but they can act as a bridge. And maybe Elise's brother likes Julian, maybe Julian's brother likes Elise. We don't know. Like, there could be romantic stuff there that happens once that bridge is built. And they can freely cross over without that hatred and animosity that they're supposed to have for whatever reason. I think it's awesome. And those 2 houses that hate each other, that are at odds, joining hands, even amicably, could really forward the kingdom and their agenda and all these other things when they don't have their really important houses feuding. So I think that really, really, really does a lot for the story, and it did a lot for me, and it was just a really cute episode. I was checking constantly if it was going to end, because I was like, they always do this to me. It always feels like really short, but overall, I really enjoyed it, and I hope that you did too. If you didn't, let me know in the comments down below. If you did, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next week for episode number 10 of Dr. Elise. All right, my friends, peace.